capital. Today we're going to begin a series what we call video blogs. We're going to spend about 5 minutes a day or a week teaching you different facets of the commercial business, different definitions and things that might help you become a better investor or might help you get into the commercial business as an actual way of making a living and a career. But we won't just stop on that. We may also talk about marriage or religion or anything that we really feel like on that given day, and hopefully it'll all add value and make your life better. Today we're going to talk about net operating income, which is often abbreviated NOI, for investor commercial properties. Okay, net operating income for investor commercial properties. This is the cash flow that the property kicks off, and it's what we're going to use then to calculate another important factor, which is the debt service coverage ratio, which we'll go over that one tomorrow. But for today, we're going to go over net operating income. So let's say you're buying a small retail shopping center. It's got 5 or 6 retail tenants. It's a little strip mall shopping center type of thing. Maybe it's $1 million purchase price, and it has on the flyer it talks about a net operating income of $100,000. So let's say it's they say it's $100,000 of NOI. Okay, that's not necessarily how we are going to underwrite the NOI. Okay, how we look for it is we're going to look at the gross, we're going to subtract expenses, and we're going to get the bottom line net. Okay, so let's say on this $1 million property, it has gross rents of $150,000 a year. Okay, and you're buying it for $1 million. $1 million. Okay. We're going to assume that you've got, let's say it's 100% occupied, okay? We're still going to take off 5% for vacancy, okay? From this number, right off the top, minus 5%. Okay, so we'll take off 5% for vacancy. Even though it's 100% occupied, we're going to take off 5% for vacancy. 5% of 150 is $7,500, okay? We're also going to take away 5% for management. Now you might say, why? I'm going to self-manage that property myself. When you're an underwriter, we're looking at this, what if we have to take over the property? We're going to pay a management company to take over that property and get new tenants in there, etc. So we're going to take off another 5% for management, okay? That's 5% and 5% for vacancy and management, okay? Now also there's going to be reserves required based on a certain amount of per unit or a certain amount per square foot. Underwriting is going to determine what that reserve amount will be. Okay, as just a rough estimate, let's put 2% down. Okay, as a rough estimate. What are reserves? Every month, if you own a commercial property, you should set aside a little bit of the money, just a little bit, but every month, going into a kitty so that when a tenant leaves, you've got money set aside for tenant improvements and that type of stuff. So at 2% of 150, that would be $3,000, okay? 2%, and that's reserves, okay? And so as a rough guesstimate, really instead of 150 gross, we're going to be at, what's that, 135 minus 3, 132, 2,000 gross. 132,000 available to pay any of the other expenses on the property. Now, what other expenses could there be? Trash removal, if the property pays utilities, if the property pays, taxes and insurance are definitely ones. Let's say all of those expenses, okay, come to $32,000 for the year, okay? Those are other expenses, okay? That's going to net us $100,000 of what we call NOI, net operating income. Okay? Underwritten NOI. That might be different than what the realtor says. The realtor may just take 150, subtract the 32, and say it's got 118,000 NOI. And you might think you're getting a really good deal, but actually we would underwrite it like this. Now, if you're buying a property for $1 million that has 100,000 NOI, that's a 10 cap, and we'll have to go into that another day, how you calculate that. That's actually a pretty good buy. Essentially, you're getting 10% on your money for the $1 million there. If you can leverage that with a loan, you can really make some good money on this deal. But that 100,000 is available to pay the mortgage payment, okay? And then what's left over is your profit, okay? And you still have all these things taken care of. And so that is the NOI on an investor property. It's your gross rents. You subtract out 5% for management, 5% for vacancy, 2% for reserves is just a rough estimate, okay? And you get 132, then you subtract out all your other expenses, and that's your NOI. That's the profit on the business. And we're going to take that number, okay, to use that tomorrow to talk about debt service coverage ratio on this property. Now, for owner-occupied properties, it's done a little differently. That's called EBITDA, and we'll go over that probably tomorrow too. So maybe we'll go over debt service coverage in 2 days, and we'll do EBITDA tomorrow. But that's an NOI on an investor property. You can do that on any property, and just what you pay then is going to depend on what the cap rates are for that type of property and for that type of area, and we can go over that. That's another little session for another day. Okay. This is Brian Peer, Commercial Capital. We'll be doing these all the time, and hopefully this is something that we're rolling out the net branch here very shortly, which is an opportunity for you to get into commercial, either as a side business or as a full-time business, for you to get into commercial almost risk-free. So, be on the lookout for that, and I hope to talk to you soon.